Well, despite celebrating her 56-year independence anniversary on Thursday, the Gambia is only on her third president due to the country's turbulent democratic structure. Following the swearing in of Adama Barrow in 2017 after Jammeh's 21-year rule, many believed it to be a new dawn in the country. One of such people is Honorable Fatoumata Njai, ECOWAS female parliamentarian contesting for the position of party leader and Secretary General of the People's Progressive Party, formerly the Protectorate People's Party, the party of the country's founding fathers that birthed the first president. Glad to have you join us on the show, Honorable Fatoumata Njai.
Good morning, Gambians and friends of the Gambia, and good morning to my friends and colleagues in Nigeria and across the world. Like my host said, my name is Honorable Fatoumata Njai, and I am a member of Parliament of the Gambia, and by that virtue, I also sit at the ECOWAS Parliament as one of 5 members and the only female Gambian parliamentarian at the ECOWAS Parliament.
Wow, that's interesting. That's interesting, really. All right, let's start it this way. Why is politics in your country, the Gambia, so turbulent? You have only had 3 presidents despite celebrating just this Thursday the 56th independence anniversary.
I would not call my country turbulent. I would call my country one of the most stable and the most peaceful countries despite coming out from 22 years of dictatorship. There has never been any unrest in the Gambia except for 1980, when we had a brief encounter of a coup d'etat which lasted for 7 days but was unsuccessful with the assistance of the Senegalese military that returned President Sadauda Jawara into power in July 1981, after that 1 week of disturbance by Kukoy Samba Sanyang. Aside that, we've also had military interruption in 1994 that took Jammeh into power, and he ruled the Gambia under harsh dictatorship for 22 years. Despite that, there had never been any revolt. That is why I said Gambians and the Gambia is the most peaceful, because we've been through harsh leadership, but we've been tolerant, and it was only in 2016 when we came under a coalition of 7 political parties and an independent candidate, we successfully ousted the president.
Sorry, we'll keep you on pause. We'll go on a short break, and when we get back, you'll probably continue with your line of thoughts, or we'll then put in another question. Still stay with us on the morning show.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We are joined by Honorable Fatoumata Njai, who is a female parliamentarian contesting for the position of party leader and Secretary General of the People's Progressive Party over there in Gambia, which is where she joins us from. I'm sorry we had to interrupt you in the middle of your first answer there. I'll give you the floor to complete your answer, because I believe you were talking about how you believe Gambia to be a peaceful country despite its somewhat checkered past. I'll hand over to you to continue your thoughts on that. But in addition to that, I did want to introduce yourself and ask you about your nickname. You have been referred to as the Iron Woman. Why have you been referred to as that? And do you agree with that nickname?
Somehow, I think I have been overrated, I would say, because I cannot rate myself. But being one of few female parliamentarians, in fact, only 3 elected out of 51, and being very outspoken and bold in my decisions and in my choice of words, I think that might be the reason I am described by that particular news outlet, the Fatu Network, as an Iron Lady. And at times, most people in the street would ask me, how do you dare say what you say in Parliament? And I'm like, I think when I'm in Parliament, I just, I think it's a conviction. And sometimes I get carried away because I'm so passionate about the work that I do and looking at the people that I represent and the plight of the Gambian people. I get carried away that I just have to do what I have to do. And I think that is one of the reasons why I was labeled as that. But like I said, I think it is overrated because we have more women. We've had, I think it is something in my party because if you look at our founding fathers with the women that accompanied them, the likes of Augustus Darling, the likes of Dr. Mahoney, they were dynamic women, and looking up to them, I think they cannot be wrong as well.
Well, some believe that the swearing in of Adama Barrow, that was in 2016, if I'm correct, signaled 17, yeah, signaled a new dawn in Gambian politics. Do you share that view, and how so?
I share that view. We had a great opportunity. It was, even myself, I described it as a dawn of a new era because we successfully, peacefully, I would emphasize, removed a dictator and inherited a president that was calm, that was peaceful, that was unifying, because that is how I see Adama Barrow. I cannot say anything because when it comes to competence, we were not looking at competence at that time, because if we were looking at competence, it wouldn't obviously have been Adama Barrow, but I would give him a plus when it comes to unifying the country, when it comes to being a peaceful president, an accommodating president, and a very tolerant president. And I think that was what we needed at that time, coming from what we came out of after the Jammeh regime, which was labeled as tyrannic and dictatorial, because we've been through a lot. We've lost so many people. I lost my father in that regime, and so many people lost their precious ones as well. So looking at Adama Barrow's presidency, yes, I would describe it as a dawn of a new era. What happened along the way was unfortunate because most of the things that we were expecting actually did not happen, and we are into the fourth year. In fact, we have just gone into an election year. We have elections every 4 years, and to be honest, if I were to rate Adama Barrow in terms of what we expected, I wouldn't rate him very high, but irrespective, he was the preferred. And looking at what we have now, he would also be the preferred because of this peace and the stability and the level of tolerance. And I think it is no accident. The reason I said I was going to take the leadership of my party, if you look at the history, if you know the history of the PPP, and if you look at the leadership that we've had from 1959, by the leadership of Sadauda Kerabai Jawara, not only in terms of competence, but in terms of principled democratic values and the respect of the rule of law. After my party was disbanded, we had an interim leader in the name of Alhaji Omar O.J. Jallo, who's been with the PPP as a young, dynamic man. He became a minister at the age of 27. And looking at his work and looking at the leadership that is now, that is the reason why I said I think I have to take it up and take it back to what our founding fathers envisaged in the party. Dynamism, pragmatism, and of course, competence.
In addition to those qualities in anybody who's searching for elected office, or definitely, as you are trying to do, become the leader of this party, there's also, in addition to the things you've listed there, a respect and the following to the law, knowing that you're going to follow the law by the letter, not just by the letter, but indeed the spirit of the law. So I ask you, since you are looking to hold such a prestigious position within this party, how serious you take the rule of law. You know, in doing some background research on you, we did come across the fact that it's believed that you were arrested in March 2020 for attempting to bring your mother out of coronavirus quarantine. Is that what happened? If it is, and you did in fact do that, why do you feel as though the people of that party should trust you with that position if you could be involved in such irresponsible behavior?
That was mere propaganda, because I had a lot of information that I went to inspect. Actually, I went to inspect to talk to the hotel manager, because that hotel apparently was out of use for 3.5 years. And the hotel owners were apparently, I wouldn't say because I wasn't sure, apparently friends of some of the authorities. And a hotel that's not been used for 3 years, I would not believe that would be used for quarantining people haphazardly without it being cleaned. And apparently my mother is a diabetic. My daughter is a sickler. So I wanted to make sure that the place was prim and proper for quarantine purposes. And I called the authorities and told them that there were certain people that paid their way out of the airport, and that was out of order, and that they should go and return them to the quarantine area and make sure that they are taken to a proper place. In fact, that was a lie. I never went to remove my mom from quarantine. In fact, I was sitting in my car, dropping dinner for my daughter, waiting for the authorities to come and collect the food, because as a sickler, I also had to protect myself and not actually go close to them, because they had just came from the United Kingdom. I also have 2 sons at home that are sicklers that I also had to protect. I am a responsible person, and any sane and responsible person knew that that was not true. That was why the police went ahead and published that, because they knew I was going to go and tell the real story. That was why it never went far as well, because they knew that was a damn lie.
All right, fine. Okay, now you're contesting, still on that line. You're contesting for the leadership of your party. You want to be the leader of your party. You want to be of course, I learned that the leader of the party is also the sec-gen. So 2 of them go hand in hand. Before I was thinking they were apart. Hand. But now you're,
yes,
you're contesting for that. Njai, Keba Jallow is the incumbent, because Njai, of course, was made an ambassador. And he wants to contest. So the question is, what are your chances against him? And what are you bringing to the table that should make your party faithful want to vote you in as their leader?
I think being an interim leader actually puts him at a disadvantage, because I have proven beyond reasonable doubt that I am the best. I am the most competent person. I have been in Parliament for the past 3.5 years, and I have proven myself, done my work with my constituency, established a foundation 5 months after being elected in Parliament. I support a number of people in my constituency, and the people in my party would want me to extend that beyond my constituency. The incumbent, I would say, have been an interim leader for the past 4 months, and nothing have been done, nothing positive have been done. And the people, the delegates, have actually identified that nothing has changed in the party. And when it comes to my allegiance to the party, that was also proven beyond reasonable doubt, because in the last Congress in 2018, my candidate lost the elections. I chose another candidate, and then the delegates voted for another candidate, and that candidate had vindicated me. He was appointed an ambassador and left the party along the way without having finished his tenure. And my question came back, was he actually a member of the party? Because he contested as a mayoral candidate under an independent ticket. And for me, my full allegiance is with my party. When I contested for parliamentary elections, my party was as good as dead. We did not have any council members. We did not have any parliamentarians. The party was banned for 17 years. We had just come up. We were part and parcel of the UDP, which was the biggest party identified, known, and claimed to be the biggest party, irrespective. They invited me to be part of them and contest under their ticket. I took the risk and contested under a party that was as good as dead, because my belief is with the PPP, their principles, what they stood for, and I think that is why I am the most popular amongst the two of us that are running, because the members have identified my love for the party, my dedication for the party, and come Saturday, I will obviously take 90% of the votes, because that is what I have seen on the ground.
Wow, that is a real speech going forward there. All right.
I wanted to come in to ask you. You are very confident, and it's palpable that you do believe that you will, ascend to that position come the weekend. I do want to ask you though, because I feel as though we'd be doing this conversation a bit of an injustice if we didn't address it. Do you feel as a woman your gender has held you back from succeeding in the political space in Gambia? Do you think that, it's been a hindrance to your political ambitions at all?
I think it will be unfair to say that my gender has disadvantaged me, because Gambia, even though it is very small and that we do not have a lot of female representation in decision-making positions, but me personally, I do not believe that my gender have posed that disadvantage, because from childhood, from birth, I've come from a very liberal family. My dad, for example, would give the daughters more opportunity than he would give the male child. And also being a first child in the family, my dad had 4 daughters before he had a son. Probably that's why he's given us a lot of opportunity, a lot of exposure, and he's even made us believe that we can even do more, achieve more than any male child can achieve. But true, when you look at it generally in the country, the male child is given a lot more opportunity. And I think my leadership will try to break that barrier. And also the way I present and represent in the parliament also gives a lot of opportunity, a lot of hope to the male child. And also my foundation, I focus more on the girl child. And I think that is why I'm also more daring to make them believe that, yes, if you can think of it, you can do it. Once it is a thought, it can be a possibility. And I think it gives me a lot more courage. I am trying to break that glass ceiling. And thanks to Ellen Johnson Sirleaf as well, I've been admitted at the Amoje Leadership Initiative. I am a 2021 cohort. And also that gives me an exposure beyond my imagination. I'm being mentored by the females, by the world females best.
Good. Quite interesting. Now, the president, Adama Barrow, officially launched his party, NPP, and is planning to run for a second term come December 4th. That's when your presidential election will be taking place, against his promise that he will do only a term. What's your sense?
From inception, from the start, from 2017, as a lawmaker and as a custodian of the Constitution, I have always been against that 3-year term, because I have to defend. I took an oath to defend my Constitution, and my Constitution states 5 years. Whatever he does beyond that 5 years, it depends on how he had ruled within that 5 years. But for me, from the start, I have always maintained my position to defend him serving for 3 years. But what I said was 5 years was the legitimate term, 3 years in principle. And for me, I believe that your principles determine the person you are. Laws are made by man and can be changed by man. But your principles, your integrity determines who you are. It would have been favored if he had come out after the 3 years and threw it to us and say, yes, I promised you 3 years, but the law says 5 years, and then leave it to us to decide and promise you, believe me, I would have said, go ahead for the next 2 years, and then we will decide in an elections because you were democratically elected in an elections which the law says you should serve for 5 years. But like I said, legality, integrity, principles, and ethics.
Thank you. If we could talk about Gambia itself for a little bit, it's almost completely swallowed up by Senegal. And when we look at that strategic position, do you think the geography concerned with Gambia has made it difficult to govern it? And I guess in addition to that, I'd like to ask you about what your thoughts are on the legacy of colonialism in Gambia, specifically the separation of it between it being recognized as a colony and a protectorate. Can you give us some background information on that?
I think I would be in the best position to do that because my party was formed based on colonialism and protectorate areas. As you have rightly stated, in 1959, the Protectorate People's Party was formed, but the founding fathers realized at a very early stage that if that was the case, they would have excluded a lot of people, like the colonies, and they wanted an all-inclusive party. Irrespective of that, we are still struggling, and we became the biggest party up until 1994 after the coup d'etat, when we were totally sent into a coma. And that is what we are trying to revive now. But like you said, the structural position, Gambia is in a very strategic position, yes, surrounded in all three sides by Senegal, with the exception of the Atlantic. But notwithstanding, we maintain our sovereignty. It has been done since Sadauda Keraba Jawara days. If you recall, in 1981, after the coup d'etat, there was a confederation between Gambia and Senegal. And the agreement was that there would be a permanent presidency that would be occupied by presidency of the federation that will be occupied by Senegal, and the vice presidency by the Gambia. And when we went along the way, the former president Sadauda realized that that would be a no-show for the Gambia, because you cannot have a federation that would have a permanent presidency by another country when you are also a sovereign state on your own. And that was how the confederation came to an end. So I think when it comes to defending the sovereignty of our nation, it has always been the case. And give the devil its due. The former president Yahya Jammeh, in as much as he was a dictator in our country, he defended the sovereignty of this country to the dot. And I presume that is what Adama Barrow will do. And as a Gambian and as a patriotic citizen, I would stand to defend the sovereignty of my nation. I will never allow any president to give away the sovereignty of this country. Be rest assured, even though we are surrounded in all three sides by Senegal.
It's interesting.
Mind you, also the peace and stability of Senegal also depends on the Gambia. We cut right across the southern part of Senegal. Before you go to the southern part, you have to go across, you have to go through Gambia. And Casamance, I do not want to go into other states' instability, but I would have to mention this. Casamance had been unstable for decades. And the stability of Senegal and their relationship with Casamance depends on Senegalese and Gambian relationship as well. If there are certain parts in the Gambia, you just walk and go into the Casamance area. And we are related, Senegalese and Gambians are related by birth and by strategic position. So I think maintaining our individual sovereignty is of great significance.
It's really interesting listening to you talk. Speaks volume of leadership and the qualities because you're in your position, yet you speak not so caustic about the opposition party or about the president, who I'm sure your party will want to take over from. But that's, by the way, is interesting listening to you and the way you talk about that. Talk to us about your electoral system. Is it one that you are proud of, or there are still quite some improvements to make, and what will those improvements be?
I think our type of voting, I think I am very proud of because we use the marble looking at the illiteracy rate of this country, where 80% of the people are illiterate. And if we should come with the paper balloting, it would cause a lot of confusion. So I would rather we maintain the marble type of voting where everybody would be comfortable in voting. But what I am not comfortable with is the type of process. If it is the first past the post, I would rather we have the 50+1 or the 50+5, I would say, so that no one tribe or no one individual can lead this country, even if they have like 10% of the votes, because the type we have now is not very democratic, I would say, because I went on an elections. I got 58% of the votes, and I think that is absolute majority. It's not questionable. At least 50%, more than 50% of the people gave me the go ahead to represent them in parliament. But if we were to go on a presidential elections, we have 16 political parties now. Let's say the president only gets 15%. Let's say the winner, I would not say the president because it's an election, anybody can win. Let's say the winner gets 15% of the votes. It only represents 15% yes votes, and that would be very undemocratic. I think we should change the laws and allow 50+1 at least, and that would give you a majority of the people giving you their consent to rule them. So aside that, I am okay with our electoral laws.
I wanted to ask you about your personal political ambitions. Of course, we know that you're trying to get yourself in a position where you can be at the helm of the PPP, but how far do your political ambitions go? Where do you see yourself towards the latter part of your political career?
I think that's a question that everybody asks me because the moment I said I was going to take up the leadership of my party, everybody said, oh, she's going to take up the flag bearer. So I had to explain that to them. In my party, we are very democratic. The secretary general and the party leader does not necessarily mean that they will be the flag bearer. Come close to elections, we would also have another convention where we would choose our flag bearer. What I want now, my intention now is to consolidate the party. Like I said, the party that was banned for over 22 years, 17 years not in existence, we've lost so many people to another party that was created by the different political parties that were banned. And when the ban was lifted, some of them came back, of course, but not as many as we would have loved to come back. Some died along the way because this is a party that took us to independence since 1965. You obviously expect us to lose a lot of our founding fathers. What I am looking at now is to revive the party. And if that is done successfully within the next 10 months, if we can come up with a presidential candidate, we definitely will, because I believe that every political party should look at itself as a government in waiting. But as we speak now with the current leadership, if this current leadership were to continue, we will not even look into 2016 to run 2026 to run for presidential candidate, because I believe that the current leadership is not able to take us where I want the party to go. And that is why I came up to take the party where I see the party, where our founding fathers envisaged the party. We had visionary leaders, and that is not what I see in the party now. And that is the reason why, as a National Assembly member, I came up to lead the party.
Okay, briefly, very briefly, in under maybe 30 seconds or 45 seconds, do you think that there is inclusivity for women in your country in politics?
I believe, even though I see it as window dressing, it is I believe that it is done to please or to conform with some international convention. But when it comes to giving women their proper due, because we have a cabinet of about 17, and I would applaud the president for having at least 5. I think the vice president is female, the minister of agriculture for the first time is female, the minister of education is female, and we've established a gender ministry, which is also female. So we have 4 female in the cabinet as we speak.
Indeed.
But whether they also represent, my concern is that you can be female, but do you represent
Fatoumata
the gender
Njai, thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate it. We have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, but we have unfortunately come to the end of our time.